The rise of anti-Semitism under Hitler's regime was rapid and systematic, turning discrimination into state policy. As soon as Hitler came to power on January 30, 1933, anti-Semitic violence spread across Germany. The SA attacked synagogues, smashed the windows of Jewish businesses, and assaulted Jews in the streets. On April 1, 1933, the Nazis organized a nationwide boycott of Jewish businesses, the regime's first large-scale anti-Semitic action. This action served as a pretext for the introduction of discriminatory laws such as the Civil Service Restoration Act of April 7, 1933, which excluded Jews from the city service. Between 1933 and 1939, over 400 decrees and regulations were issued to restrict all aspects of Jewish life. The Nuremberg Laws of 1935 institutionalized racial segregation, depriving Jews of their German citizenship. Anti-Semitic violence culminated in Kristall Night on November 9, 1938, a pogrom that claimed around 100 lives. This event marked an escalation in persecution from legal discrimination to organized physical violence. Nazi anti-Semitism, established as a state doctrine, gradually isolated, stigmatized, and dehumanized German Jews, paving the way for the Shoah that followed. Following Germany's invasion and occupation of Poland in 1939, the Nazis began deporting Jews from the Third Reich to certain regions of Poland, where they were created ghettos to separate them from the rest of the population. In the winter of 1941, the Nazis built their first gas chamber and crematorium at Auschwitz. Nazi leaders met in January 1942 at the Wannsee Conference to coordinate the industrial massacre, what they called the final solution to the Jewish question, killing the entire European Jewish population of 11 million by extermination and forced labor.
Auschwitz was originally a Polish army barracks in southern Poland. Nazi Germany invaded and occupied Poland in September 1939, and on April 27, 1940, Himmler ordered the construction of a concentration camp in the former Polish artillery barracks at Auschwitz, renamed Auschwitz. The Nazi officer turned concentration camp commandant Rudolf Höss brought the motto Arbeit macht frei, work makes you free, from another camp where he had worked in Dachau, Germany. This infamous lie still hangs above the entrance to the camp that was once known as Auschwitz E.N. As the war at the Holocaust progressed, the Nazi regime greatly expanded the site. In March 1941, Himmler ordered the construction of a second larger section of the camp, almost 3 kilometers from the original camp. This site was to be used as an extermination camp. It was given the name Birkenau or Auschwitz II. In the end, Birkenau was where most of the prisoners in the Auschwitz complex were held: Jews, Poles, Germans, and Gypsies. Conditions in Birkenau were the most difficult and inhuman, and the gas chamber and crematorium complex were located there. The site is far from the capitals of Western Europe, and the extermination could take place there discreetly. What's more, it was served by a major rail network which facilitated the transport of the British convoys.
The Auschwitz complex, comprising 3 camps, the main camp Auschwitz I, Birkenau Auschwitz II, and Monowitz Auschwitz III, and 44 annexed camps, became the largest and most densely populated of the Nazi concentration camps. Auschwitz I and II were surrounded by 4-meter-high electrified barbed wire fences, guarded by SS men armed with machine guns and rifles. Both camps were also fenced off by a series of guard posts located almost 2 kilometers beyond the fences. In March 1942, trains carrying Jews began arriving daily. Several trains, each carrying 1,000 or more victims from Eastern Europe, ghettos as well as from Western and Southern European countries, sometimes arrive on the same day. During 1942, convoys arrived from Poland, Slovakia, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Yugoslavia. Jews and Gypsies continued to arrive throughout 1943. Hungarian Jews were deported to Auschwitz in 1944, as were Jews from the Polish ghettos, who were the last to be liquidated.
A third section, Auschwitz III, was built in nearby Monowicz, consisting of a forced labor camp called Muna Bonowicz and 45 other forced labor subcamps. The name Buna comes from the local synthetic rubber factory owned by IG Farben, Germany's largest chemical company. Most of the Jewish prisoners working in this and other factories owned by German companies were exploited to the point of exhaustion, then replaced by new workers. Auschwitz was initially run by Camp Commandant Rudolf Höss and guarded by a cruel regiment of SS Skull and Crossbones units. Between 25,000 and 35,000 people were killed between 1943 and 1944 as a result of malnutrition, inhuman working conditions, and the sending of unfit prisoners to the gas chambers. Finally, the Auschwitz complex also included annex camps under the Nazi administration and command of the Auschwitz concentration camp. In addition to E.G. Farben, many other German industries, such as Krupp and Siemens, built factories with annexed camps. The Auschwitz concentration camp was surrounded by 45 satellite camps, 28 of which served the armaments industry. The population of these camps ranged from a few dozen to several thousand prisoners. Most camps were less than 10 kilometers from Auschwitz.
Forced labor was an essential component of the Nazi concentration camp system at Auschwitz. On arrival at camp, prisoners were selected according to age and physical condition. Auschwitz inmates were assigned to a variety of jobs, including large-scale farms and experimental agriculture stations such as Rashko, coal mines and quarries, armaments factories, in particular the DAW, Deutsche Ausrüstungswerke, equipment factories established in 1941, and road and other infrastructure construction. Working conditions at Auschwitz were deliberately designed to be lethal. Working days of up to 12 hours, inadequate food rations, unsuitable clothing, particularly in winter, lack of medical care, etc. These extreme conditions resulted in a high mortality rate. On average, a forced labor survived only 4 months in these conditions.
Usually associated with health and pleasure, sport was used in concentration camps as an instrument of torture. Physical exercises were not voluntary activities, but rather disguised punishments, as reported by German media outlet Deutsche Welle. Nazi guards forced prisoners to perform an endless series of push-ups, frog jumps, or exhausting runs. These exercises were designed to cause physical and mental suffering at a time when the prisoners' bodies were already scarred by hunger, deprivation, and horror. The prison camp routine consisted of a multitude of tasks. The daily schedule includes waking up at dawn, tidying the straw mattress, morning roll call, walking to work, long hours of back-breaking labor, queuing for a miserable meal, returning to camp, block inspection, and evening roll call. During roll call, prisoners must stand completely still and silent for hours on end, wearing the lightest of outfits, whatever the weather. Anyone who falls or stumbles is immediately sent to his death. Each prisoner, in his or her own way, had to focus all his or her energy on resisting the daily tortures. It was to the sound of popular tunes or excerpts from chamber music that the deportees of certain convoys disembarked from the prison trains. Prisoners in labor camps were forced to sing them as they worked, but also to hum them as they were beaten up or during the killings. Tunes from popular films and sentimental songs diverted from their original meaning were played.
As in all extermination and concentration camps, Nazi doctors played an important role at Auschwitz. They participated in the selection of arriving Jews and carried out medical experiments on prisoners in complete freedom. At the end of 1942, Professor Karl Klauberg moved to Auschwitz, where he and Dr. Horst Schumann carried out sterilization experiments to develop a method for the biological annihilation of people hated by the Nazis. From May 1943 onwards, Mengele, a doctor of medicine and philosophy, conducted research on twins and dwarfs and became interested in the other phenomena such as the coloring of the iris of the eye. He began his so-called medical experiments on gypsies, then on Jews. After a number of examinations, followed by an injection of phenol into the heart, which kills the designated victim, he proceeds in particular to the comparative analysis of organs. At the request of I.G. Farben, and in particular the Bayer company, various pharmaceutical products were tested in Birkenau and Monowitz. As part of these medical experiments, Dr. Helmut Vetter inoculated prisoners with typhus to test Bayer products. For the selected internees, the medical experiments usually meant a slow, painful death.
The transports of Jews are directed onto the unloading ramp of the Auschwitz goods station and then taken to the bunker. When they got off the train, the deportees had to leave all their personal belongings behind. Clothing, shoes, prostheses, glasses, and other items are collected and sorted in a warehouse called Canada. Most of these items were recovered and sent to Germany for distribution to the civilian population. From July 1942 onwards, selection was carried out on each transport. Men on one side, women and children on the other, divided into two columns, headed for the SS doctors who, with a wave of the hand, sent them to their deaths or to work. The elderly, the sick, the infirm, mothers with children, pregnant women, infants, and those deemed unnecessary to the German war economy were destined for immediate gassing. Then, taken to the bunker by truck or on foot, under the pretext that they will be disinfected, they were asked to undress. These gas chambers were built to resemble shower rooms to instill confidence in the victims. New arrivals at Birkenau are told that they will be sent to work, but that they must first take a shower to disinfect themselves. Around 800 people enter at the same time and are led into what appear to be shower rooms, where they are quickly gassed to death with an extremely toxic gas called Zyklon B. The agony lasts several dozen minutes. Half an hour later, the doors open. The corpses covering the surface of the room were stained with excrement and blood. A special commando, the Sonderkommando, made up of Jews of different nationalities who had been assigned this task, had to remove the corpses from the gas chamber, pull out the gold teeth, and then bury the bodies. Prisoners who survived the first selection underwent further selections on a regular basis, either on their return from work or during roll call, with the weakest being murdered in turn. New selections take place several times a day during roll calls. Weakened or sick prisoners are taken from the ranks and sent to the gas chambers. A ruthless system of punishment and torture was applied in the camp.
In the summer of 1942, the SS built a second farm in Birkenau, capable of holding several hundred people. At the end of September 1942, the pits were reopened and the corpses burned to erase all traces of the massacres. In July 1942, the massive arrival of Jews from Europe and the typhus epidemic led the SS to propose to the Erfurt firm G.A. Topf and Son the construction of 4 crematoriums, combining gas chambers, undressing rooms, and several ovens, which were completed between March and June 1943. In these modern facilities, it became possible to burn almost 4,080 corpses and gas 3,000 people at the same time in the space of 24 hours. The ashes and debris of unconsumed bones are destroyed and thrown into the river or used as fertilizers. While other killing centers were dismantled between late 1943 and 1944, extermination at Birkenau continued uninterrupted.
At the end of November 1944, Heinrich Himmler gave the order to stop gassing operation and dismantle the killing facilities. Faced with the rapid advance of the Red Army, the camp was evacuated as a matter of urgency. On January 17, 1945, the death marches swept 58,000 prisoners off their feet. On the morning of January 27, the Nazis left the camp after destroying Crematoria 2 and 3 on January 20 and Crematorium 5 on January 26, and setting fire to the Canada warehouses. The thousands of prisoners thrown onto the roads were forced to walk for several days in the cold and snow without food until they reached Gleiwitz. Those who did not die of exhaustion or were not summarily shot during these marches were transferred to the Reich concentration camps, where many lost their lives.
Today, awareness and commemoration of the genocide that took place in concentration camps such as Auschwitz occupy a central place in historical memory, both in Poland and Germany and in all Western countries. Numerous educational visits are organized by schools to prevent this memory and ensure that this crucial aspect of history is not forgotten by future generations. UNESCO also played a key role in preserving the remains of the site and preventing its deterioration over time. Auschwitz has also been the subject of several film adaptations, including Schindler's List and The Boys in the Striped Pajamas.